know, Dr. Nitin Raut has been very active in such matter, and he immediately swung into action and intervened in the matter. He not only spoke to Honorable Chief Minister, but convinced him to put a hold on this contentious matter. Similarly, Dr. Harshadip Kamble sir also followed the matter at administrative level and got successful to withdraw the government resolution. Of late, we have felt that there are many misconceptions attached to the perennial issue of criminal layer, and similarly, there is a reoccurring need to discuss the issue of reservation in detail. Taking all these basic issues of significance at focus, we have arranged this international webinar. Now, I call upon Dr. Vikas Dambulkar to make an introductory note for this webinar. Please.
Hello. Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Anil Hirekan. I welcome all of you and Jai Bhim as well as Namo Buddhaya to all the participants. This is the international webinar on reservation which has been organized on the occasion of the 100 years of the first All India Bahishkrit Parishad held in Nagpur on 30th, 31st and 1st June 1920 under the leadership of Dr. Ambedkar and Chhatrapati Shahu Maharaj. The webinar is a result of the deliberations that have undertaken on the issues of the income criteria laid down by the government of Maharashtra for admission to foreign universities for the scheduled caste and the scheduled tribe students. The issue raised a heated debate and deliberations within the community as to a de facto application of creamy layer criteria to the scheduled caste. And despite the fact that this is not a new phenomena, as most of the government schemes, whether state or central, do have an income criteria for eligibility to the schemes, the issue has gained unprecedented attention in the last few days. The Maharashtra government has reverted back to its decision till further notice. It was decided, therefore, to conduct a webinar with a much larger scope and deliberate upon the components of social justice policy in India. It was therefore decided to keep the reservation policy in center of the debate and discuss the peripheral issues. As can be noted, there has been a consistent opposition to the reservation policy and the basis on which it is given. There has been a consistent push to make income as a criteria for reservation. The government even pushed a legislation making reservation for economically weaker sections. It is to be noted that the constitutional rationale in Article 16 is radically been departed to introduce reservation on economic criteria. Reservation is a policy to rectify underrepresentation and monopoly of certain castes in the political power, education, and employment. It is not a poverty elevation program and not a solution to poverty. Is it prudent to base income as a criteria for reservation, as it has a completely different normative and objective to achieve? Very recently, the Apex Court too came up with the decision that it is up to the discretion of the state to give reservation both at the access and promotion, nullifying the decisions in the Nagraj case. The court also has asked the government to revise the list of groups getting reservations, which has created a sense of disaffection in the scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, and the OBC communities. It is to address these various concerns that this webinar intends, and therefore has called upon the best minds to deliberate and dispel misconceptions and provide a clearer perspective. It is in this perspective that this webinar has been organized. Now, I would like to invite Dr. Nitin Raut, Honorable Minister of Energy and Guardian Minister Nagpur, to kindly inaugurate the webinar and deliver the inaugural address. Thank you very much.
कोण हे करतोय?
तिकडे विजय जाधव करतोय. हॅलो,
कोऑर्डिनेटर असेल त्याने हे केलेलं.
हा चालू करायला सांगू. तुम्ही बोला ना, तुम्ही सांगा चालू करा. हा
बस ठीक आहे. हा थोडं
हो बोलताय सर, बोलताय आता.
Supreme Jai Bhim and Namo Buddhaya. Dear all dignitaries, participants, brothers and sisters. In the very beginning of today's webinar, I pay my homage to crusaders and emancipators of caste discrimination in India, as well as pioneer of reservation in India. Chhatrapati Rajashri Shahu Maharaj and Dr. Baba Saheb Ambedkar, when Baba Saheb was younger and only 29 years old, came to Nagpur first time exactly 100 years ago on 30th May 1920. On the occasion of centenary of first All India Bahishkrit Parishad, a webinar is being organized by Global Buddhist Congregation 2020 in collaboration with Federation of Organization of Social Equality, Secularism and Democracy. It is online international webinar on the reservation policy organized by 2 days today and tomorrow. You are all aware of the pandemic of COVID-19, brothers, where almost the whole world engraved this disease mode us to experience many things, one of which is discrimination. The people who have never experienced untouchability, this COVID-19 made them to experience just for a few weeks. The subject of seminar is reservation policy. You must be aware that the reservation policy was started by Chhatrapati Rajashri Shahu Maharaj in 1902. To eradicate untouchability, Rajashri Shahu Maharaj himself used to go along with his ministers to have a cup of tea on the tea kiosk set up by Maharaja to an untouchable named Kamble in Kolhapur. Then later on, due to Pune Pact between Mahatma Gandhi and Dr. Baba Saheb Ambedkar, when Baba Saheb first time addressed this roundtable conference, and he told in that conference that I have no land here. So those people have asked Dr. Ambedkar and they have given communal reward to scheduled caste community. After that, Mahatma Gandhi sat on fast, and then later on, due to Pune Pact between Mahatma Gandhi, you people might have known in Dr. Ambedkar, a 9-point pact. The reservation became a part of Indian law in 1935 and incorporated in 1949 because of vision and diplomacy of Dr. Baba Saheb Ambedkar. Naturally, that time Congress party had adopted the reservation policy. From 1902 to till date, it is almost 118 years. And after adopting constitution about 70 years, in this period, mostly Congress government was in the center. Untouchability, the reservation is being attacked by the anti-reservation group in media, on the road, even in judiciary, and even in the villages also. The very first amendment of constitution was for reservation. It is the fact that first time Dr. Baba Saheb Ambedkar talked with the then Viceroy of India and sent 26 scheduled caste students in abroad for higher studies in the year 1944-46 under Colombo Plan. Recently, there was an issue of reservation in promotion and about the scholarship for the students going abroad for higher education. I must tell you one thing, being a minister of the Maharashtra, such a Phule Shahu Ambedkar was our mentor, and we are running this state. Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj is also our mentor. You all are aware that the utmost effort I have made to bring the Act on Reservation in promotion in the year 2004, because of some cases in the court, that reservation bill have not executed here. But in this background, present seminar is being organized, where the stalwarts like Dr. Balchandra Mungekar, then member of the Planning Commission and member of Parliament, Dr. Sukhdev Thora, such an eminent economist, Rajshekar Kundru, Dr. Harshdeep Kamble, Dr. K. H. Chavan, Milind Avarsar, Mall, Pradeep Dobleji are going to address the webinar. I must welcome all these big dignitaries. In spite of so many years, there are many issues which need to be clarified, like misunderstanding about the duration of reservation, that it was 10 years only, but I wanted to clarify that it was only for political reservation, not for reservation in education and jobs. But I must tell you one thing, that in the parliament, the RSS people have made some issue there. Uh, I must tell you that first, the present government is bringing the creamy layer criteria of income criteria under the grab of helping the poor among the SC/ST. But you must know that it was BJP and RSS who floated the idea of income criteria few years before. It was forcefully put by RSS chief and Mrs. Mahajan, then Speaker of Lok Sabha, and other BJP leaders there. So, application of creamy layer for scheduled caste and scheduled tribe, this reservation is not poverty eradication program, but was due to continuous discrimination due to caste in spite of economic and personal status. I would like to give you some example. Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar was discriminated due to caste in spite of his qualification. Babu Jagjivan Ram was discriminated due to caste in spite of being Deputy Prime Minister. Our present President of India did not allow to enter the temples because of his caste in spite of his status. Some anti-social people says that reservation people do not have meant, and they are inefficient. They do not have merits, and they are inefficient. Being myself social activist, energy minister, and guardian minister of Nagpur district, I would like to mention strongly and deep-heartedly that my officers have shown their capability and sincerity towards the work allotted to them. Even myself, I know that Baba Sahib was the first energy minister, and I became in such a state. Maharashtra is a big state. Became an energy minister. So energy I have to give return back to my people, because it's my social responsibility, and I am doing that. In the this scenario, uh, on 5th May 2020, government of Maharashtra has issued some notification. So I spoke to Mr. Dhananjay Munde, the Social Justice Minister, and on the same day, I spoke to Chief Minister Sri Uddhav Balasaheb Thackerji, and I was told them that this is this issue is not of the creamy layer, because Supreme Court is not allowing us to allow SC people in this criminal issue. They are they have already given their some strictures, and they mention in that nobody can take this issue, criminal issue, for SC/ST people in reservation policy or in other policy. At the same time, I I would like to ask, tell you, sir, one thing, that if there is a open category people and if there is a general scheduled caste people, so we must have the same legal issues with them, some category for them. If income limits are in open category is 20 lakhs, then these SC people should have been also given a 20 lakhs income limit. But government of Maharashtra has not given that status. I think it is also one of the discrimination. And I will show you one thing. This is the 4th October 2018 GR. Uh, GR issued by this Higher and Technical Education Department. And they have mentioned there that in general category people, the income limit is of 20 lakhs. So as I have told Dhananjay Mundeji, ki whatever you have done here, this is a discrimination and you have to take back. If you will not take back this issue, I will definitely taken up in the cabinet, because this is the authority of the cabinet and cabinet has to discuss on this issue. And even I will go to the higher authority, your leader Sharad Pawarji or our leader Mrs. Sonia Gandhi. But he convinced and he has taken a positive step. Now the state government has taken back this GR. I hereby announce and declared with my inaugural speech that webinar is now open to all participants. Jai Bhim, Nama Buddhaya.
हाँ करते हैं. Friends, I am grateful to the organizers of this web series, and the issue is about the provisions of the Constitution relating to reservations. In fact, Baba Sahib, Dr. Ambedkar has struggled in his life for giving representation to the weaker section of the societies, and because of his efforts, these provisions could be reflected in the Constitution. Our Constitution has specific provisions. Suppose there would have been no Article 15, no Article 16, or no Article 17, or no Article 18. Still, the by way of equal protection, the representation could be ensured. But since our social system is of a different kind, because despite the constitutional system working, the other constitution, which was abolished by the present constitution, the Manu Smriti, that is also working parallelly. And the people who are responsible for the governance, they draw most of inspiration from that Brahminical system in which the Manu Smriti is working. It follow degradation, gradation system, and all those aspects. In US, if you see, in their 14th amendment to their constitution, they have provided equal protection. Now today, you go to any branch, like reservation promotion in our country, we have 4 amendments to give benefit to the scheduled caste and scheduled tribe. Though personally I feel that this provision should have been there for backward classes. Sitaram Kesari ji was welfare minister when in 1995, when these provisions were enacted and were debated before enactment. These were debated. So many of our social activists, including myself, we used to visit him and request him that in addition to scheduled caste and scheduled tribe, this reservation promotion should be given to backward class also. But he used to say, my party has not decided that, so I can't go beyond my party line. And that was the aspect which he used to discuss. And subsequently, there was no issue of economic criteria. Even Mandal judgment, I feel personally, that Mandal judgment was not a constitutionally correct decision of the Supreme Court, because the economic criteria is not prescribed in the Constitution. If you see, if you want to have some public access, in Article 15.2, you cannot be prevented from a public access to a public place. And Article 15.3 specifically provides, if you want to provide some provision for the advancement of women and child, then that is permissible. Or in the same way, by way of first amendment, the provisions of Article 15.4 were inserted. And this provision was a result of a Supreme Court judgment. In that case, the Madras state has provided reservation on caste basis, and Supreme Court has requested that order. And because of that, the first amendment was made, and the provision for reservation in education was provided. But it is unfortunate that in services and education, the reservation is registered, and every person who oppose reservation, they don't want it in the education, and in services. Though they do not oppose that reservation in political area, say we have representation in from Gram Panchayat to the parliament, there is a representation. Panchayats, municipalities, the representation is there, and member of parliament, member of Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, there is no reservation. This lower house of legislature or in the state, the reservation is there. And the governments are not taking positive steps. It is unfortunate that in such a long period, the condition of scheduled caste and scheduled tribe and even backward class and the persons who have converted to other religions from them is very miserable. And with this COVID activity of lockdown, now you will see a untouchability. Even there are newspapers which are writing COVID untouchability articles nowadays, and this untouchability will increase because we have no respect for our constitution. Even if social distancing word could be there, but that social distancing word cannot be applied in India because we have a specific provision as Article 17. And the term should have been invented something else. But unfortunately, the government just decide whatever is coming, they are just copy paste and issue a instruction. That is an unfortunate thing, and that's why the people of marginalized sections are suffering. Now I come to reservation in education. In educational institutions, reservation is there, but that reservation is not followed. And on one technicality or the other technicality, the most of the reserve seats are not filled up from the scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, and backward classes. Though in most of the educational institutions, they do not give reservation to backward classes. If you see national law universities and other IIM, they do not provide that. And for scheduled caste, the courts are also not promoting the rights of the scheduled caste and scheduled tribe. That is the unfortunate part, that in the constitution, our constitution makers have thought that judiciary will protect our rights. But now the judiciary is hesitantly interested to protect the rights of other sections and not these sections. If you see educational institutions, better institutions, you do not find reservations. Even if reservation is there on one pretext or the other, they will not follow it. Or nowadays we are seeing that the cutoff they place, that is very high. Because in this examination system also I feel, and in some areas I have information also, that there are so much of manipulation to exclude scheduled caste, scheduled tribe and backward classes, so that they may not come at least in the general seat. And in that process, they marginalize them, and they are not getting the right placing as per their own merit and standing. Now I come to education, this services. We have Article 16.4, which was drafted by the Constituent Assembly as Article 10 Clause 3 in the draft constitution. And Bahishkrit Dr. Ambedkar has provided many protection in that provision. But still, if you find, if you see, even today, the representation of scheduled caste, scheduled tribe and backward classes is not 50% of that 50% which is prescribed. If you see in every branch, you will not find our peoples when scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, they come for ripe for promotion, then their ACRs are spoiled or some other provision is created, some thing will be developed and the person will be waiting for 1 year, 2 years. Only when the general candidate becomes eligible, unreserved category candidate become eligible after 2 years, 1 year, then that person is concerned. And this is happening in almost all branches and all departments. If you see the direct recruitment, there was a lot of debate in the direct recruitment of post by way of reservation. But that is not there after the implementation of Mandal Commission report. So the government which has enacted Constitution 77th Amendment should have provided reservation for backward classes, because backward classes were also requiring that protection, because they were not given that representation for 40 years. Because in 50 we got the constitution, and 90 this Mandal Commission report was implemented. So they also need protection, more so because their condition is such that they are otherwise not represented in the higher level of the services, and if they are not there, then the reservation promotion must be there for them. If you see the scheduled caste and scheduled tribe, their condition, the courts wanted to impose a creamy layer. What is creamy layer? When a deputy prime minister of a country is invited to inaugurate a public statue, Sampurnanand statue in Banaras, then that deputy prime minister, Babu Jagjeevan Ram, in 1978 inaugurated that statue, and thereafter it was purified. What is purification? Some cow dung, गाय का गोबर, गाय का मूत्र, आपका गाय का दूध, और some Ganga Jal. So all these 3-4 things they join, then they say it is purified. So a person who has touched will spoil that place, and the cow dung is not spoiling. It is unknown, and because the Manusmriti is working in the background, so that is the reason that this is happening. Then thereafter, when we see this Jitan Ram Manjhi, he was chief minister of Bihar in the last election. He went to some temple. Then the temple was purified. He was 8-time MLA and a deputy chief minister. Economic, if you want to understand, his economic condition is not bad, but because he is a scheduled caste, so once he come out, then it was purified. Then I come to the bureaucrat. I conducted a case. One Mata Parishad was there. He was IAS officer, and he remained senior most IAS officer for more than 2 years. So TSR Subramaniam was appointed. He was continued, given one extension, then the second extension. So some officers with whom I was in touch, they said that you file some PIL. I filed PIL, and I got the extension, second extension quest, because there was a judgment of University of Pune versus Govind Rao, which did not allow second extension. So in that background, I could get that order. But still, the government who was ruling, they said he is a scheduled caste, we will not appoint him cabinet secretary. Though afterwards he was appointed member of UPSC and became chairman also. And he was a good officer. So if a person who has rose up to the secretary in the government, even he is facing discrimination. So what is creamy layer? Then I come to judiciary. There was a judge in Uttar Pradesh, Bhartari Prasad. He is a district session judge. District session judge, by power, he can impose death penalty. By financial condition, he is at least principal secretary to the government, or nowadays we have additional chief secretary, because that much emolument he draw. So despite his economic better condition, his transfer took place. Then afterwards, the person who has come in his place, a district judge, another district judge, he purify his room, court room, and other places. Then this person gave a public interview that this is incorrect, this is untouchability, and this person was suspended, and the other person was promoted. So to the High Court, though, this is an unfortunate type of thing, and the discrimination which our people are facing in the system is a unique discrimination, which I think we don't have that type of discrimination anywhere. This another aspect is that the backward classes. When Akhilesh Yadav vacated the chief minister's house in UP, and this Yogi Adityanath has taken over. He did the same purification activity. So backward class is also facing the same thing. So if the backward class is facing that problem, then how you can apply creamy layer to them? So I personally feel that the Supreme Court should review the Indira Sahni judgment, and this creamy layer concept should go. Then I come to the reservation promotion, other aspect. What is the reservation promotion? Reservation promotion is to place you in the higher position so that you participate in the policy making. In the government system, as we see nowadays, we see even the secretaries do not have that role. Now everything Prime Minister is deciding. So the way things are going on, this system, the way it is working, if you don't have your placing in the higher positions, then it is difficult. You will not know what decision they are taking. And most of these people who are promoted to higher positions have a perversity in their mind. That is a fact which we realize every day in our interaction, in our discussion, and in our other activities. So a person who is promoted to the higher position, this is not a poverty elevation program that you are giving. He is a poor, so you give him this position. If you apply creamy layer to this scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, then these people can't be promoted in the higher position. This is unfortunate that the Parliament has enacted 4 amendments. 77th Amendment Act by the Congress government, and thereafter 81st Amendment Act by Vajpayee government in 2000. Thereafter another amendment by Vajpayee government, 82nd Amendment Act. 81st Amendment Act was to give them backlog vacancies, and in the name of giving them backlog vacancies, they have written the 50% ceiling in the Constitution. From 2000 onward, we are regularly debating that you cannot have these thing in the Constitution, because Constitution has nowhere prescribed 50% ceiling. But still, that was given. And when it comes to economic reservation, the Mandal judgment, all the 9 judges have said only on the basis of reservation, you cannot only on the basis of economic criteria, you cannot provide reservation. But still, Mandal judgment has been ignored. The amendment has been enacted by the Parliament, and the Supreme Court has not taken any action. Supreme Court, we argued, I think 6 months back for referring it to the Constitution bench. This is a constitutional provision, and the constitutional provision can be interpreted only by a Constitution bench. That will be of 5 judges. If a Constitution bench has to interpret it, so for referring it to Constitution bench taking 5-6 months is just wastage of judicial time, because the issue is such, it should be considered by the appropriate bench. And so far as the unreserved category is concerned, their condition is not parallel. As the Honorable Minister has said, you have provided 20 lakhs to the unreserved category, so you provide 20 lakhs for scheduled caste. No, I don't agree even with that, because scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, they face untouchability, they face social discrimination, they face so many kind of prejudices. If you don't give them a special advantage, then it is very difficult for them to survive in that system. And the criteria cannot be same for the scheduled caste, scheduled tribe or OBC and for the unreserved category, because ultimately, so say there are 100 posts. These all 100 posts were occupied by the unreserved category only. So these, out of these 100 posts, you have given only 49.5, 50%. 50 posts you have given to SC, ST, OBC. So these 50% who are occupying these posts are of unreserved category. When they will go out, only then the scheduled caste, scheduled tribe or backward classes can enter. So that is the reason that the services reservation is being opposed. And in education also, They do not want to educate our people so that they may not claim higher positions. And in the name of skill development, the basic education which scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, and backward classes were getting, that basic education has been distorted. What is the skill development? Skill development, nobody is required to tell him what skill he will use and how he will use. You give them basic principled education so that the person who is getting that education will apply his mind and can develop anything. Because in our days, whatever we have studied, like if you talk of a lawyer, whatever the lawyer study during LLB, if you see the working, that is not at all relevant. But that doesn't mean that is irrelevant, because that develop your principle to analyze a principle and to apply to a situation, and by that process you understand it and apply it to the to whatever problem you are facing. So that's why the basic education should be strengthened in our country. And the reservation in promotion, for that we have this Mandal judgment. Before Mandal, there was no problem with the reservation in promotion. Even for backward classes, the reservation was there. Though reservation for backward classes was only 5%, 3%, but even for them it was permissible. But in Mandal judgment, they have decided that there will be no reservation. But still in para 829, the Supreme Court 9 judges bench has unanimously decided that 5 years this provision will continue. And within that 5 years, this provision of 77th Amendment, this was enacted. So in 5 year period, if that has been enacted, the reservation should have been continued. But it is nowhere continuing. And the courts are passing order without understanding anything, without analyzing what is settled legal position in our constitutional interpretation, whatever they are doing. The main problem which we are facing is that the courts have no representation, and I have no hesitation that unless you have adequate representation in the court, adequate means 50% should be scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, backward classes. These problems cannot be sorted out because the courts, the judges feel that if one scheduled caste will be appointed, then it will go, my job will go. That type of mindset is working in the whole system. That's why I feel that there should be a proper amendment. Though there is no necessity of an amendment, but the Supreme Court Advocate on Record case, which was decided by the Supreme Court, is expressly against the express wording of the Constitution. Even in this reservation promotion, there are 4 amendments, and the courts are not taking care at all. Court is just ignoring. What is adequacy? If you find in Bihar, there is only 5% representation in 2011 report. Now we have Uttarakhand. Uttarakhand, there was representation less than 50% of the requirement, because there the reservation is 19%, and the representation in 2012 was only 10% or so. But neither the Congress government allowed reservation promotion there, nor the BJP is allowing, because whatever we know, when Congress is in power, then they say BJP will agitate if we will give reservation promotion. When BJP is in power, then they say Congress will agitate. What is there? This is our constitutional right. If our constitutional right cannot be protected, then for what purpose we are voting? And because of this EVM, because of EVM, now they don't need even votes, because the person is voting to X candidate and the Y candidate is getting elected. So that type of thing is happening, and it is very difficult to prove those things, because they are not allowing any expert to do some activity with that. That is the unfortunate thing. If you see Article 17, what is the reason of Article 17 in the Constitution? Constitution provided have abolished untouchability. But this is a fact. Even today, the untouchability is there, and it is there everywhere. That is an unfortunate thing, and in such a long period, there is no control on untouchability. And with this COVID notification, the untouchability will be at least doubled, if not more. And the reasonable understanding of the person is such that the social dignity is marginalized. It is a case of dignity of a person if the person is a secretary in a department, and still he is not understood as a secretary of the department. This is the marginalization of his social dignity. That's why Baba Sahib has put Article 17. Baba Sahib has abolished titles in Article 18. But today also, even we know the person who is chief minister, who is minister, they are referred as Rajas. They are that type of message. What is the message we are giving? That we don't understand constitution and we don't respect constitution. The other aspect is, if you talk of reservation in political arena, that reservation was for 10 years. And I personally feel, I have a feeling that that reservation should be abolished, because the Bihar example is the first example where the MLAs have taken a stand. Otherwise, scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, they are elected on their vote and their seats, but they are not taking any action. When reservation is not provided in a state and there is a 20% or 25% representation of scheduled caste, scheduled tribe MLAs, but still there is no action on that aspect. So that's why I feel that that reservation was for a limited period, and this reservation in the shape of say education and services, it is not a time bound exercise till the disparity will be there. The social disparity, it is a measure to control the social disparity. If social disparity will remain, then in that case the provision has to be there. If you talk of consequential seniority, what is consequential seniority? In Punjab, when Ajit Singh Januja case was decided, and thereafter in Haryana Jagdish Lal case was decided, which was hello, आने 5 मिनट करता हूँ, ठीक. If you see in Punjab, the Ajit Singh judgment was decided. In the higher level, the members of scheduled caste, scheduled tribe were there, and their population is 38% today. At that time, it must be 35%, 33%. 38% population is there. Even today, there in the lower post, the reservation is 20%. And in the higher post, group B, group A, it is only 14%. So the adequacy concept of the constitution, which is a constitutional concept in the article 16.4, 16.4a, that concept is not taken care of, and the governments are not acting as per the mandate of the constitution. If the constitution is to develop a principle, it has to develop a principle within the scheme of the constitution, and where the adequacy principle is applied and adequacy is not there, there should have been no problem. In Bihar, I told only 5%, because the cases which we are doing where the report is there that we can analyze, and in Uttarakhand it is 16, it is only 10 or 11%, and the representation is 19%. So required representation. So if you do not provide reservation despite having inadequacy in the public services, so in that thing we have to understand something beyond reservation, because only reservation will not work the way it is happening. We have to understand how the social disparity can be compensated, because there is a disparity, and in that disparity we have to survive, and there is no constitutional or statutory mechanism which is working. if you see that Maharashtra case, Kasinath Mahajan case, the case Supreme Court has decided, there was a lot of hue and cry, and what was wrong in that in that benefit which that employee was claiming, because that officer has filed his ACR, so he has to file a proper complaint. The complaint was proper, and he should have been punished, but Supreme Court gave him benefit. Subsequently, the provision was restored. So, but that person was not penalized. And in all such social issues where discrimination is being faced by the persons, and in all such issues, we do not find a person who is facing has some remedy. Ultimately, even if he gets some benefit, the person who is affecting his career, who is doing atrocity against that person is not punished. So until and unless you punish that person, it will not remedy the problem. And I think my time is over. So I'm grateful to the organizers for giving me this opportunity, and I feel that we have a larger conspectus of these discussions, and the time should be more, because there are so many issues which we can discuss, debate, and in the limited period, it's very difficult to cover all those areas. But lastly, I may tell you that the recent case which the Supreme Court has decided in that tribal issue of Andhra, in that issue, the only issue which was before the Supreme Court was of 100% reservation. And this is a scheduled tribe area. So the reservation is principle will not apply there, should not apply there, because the Schedule 5 and Schedule 6, they are different provisions. The principle which we have developed for giving equality principle in view of reservation, that principle is different, and in this the principle is different. So we have to analyze both things, and the court has given that you rectify the scheduled caste list, scheduled tribe list, and modify them and exclude some caste. The person who has rose up to the highest level of President of India is suffering discrimination. Where is the question of any such modification? Where is the question of any creamy layer? Because you may go to any higher positions. Even Punya Saab, PL Punya, when he went to Odisha in that mandir, they didn't allow him entry. And he was chairman of the National Commission for Scheduled Caste. So everybody who might be having any position, but when it comes to the interaction with the general system, they face the same discrimination. That's why I feel that the constitutional spirit should be maintained, and the constitutional scheme should be developed in such a way that the constitutional principles are maintained in general public. Thank you. Jai Bhim, Jai Mulnivasi. Dhanyavad.
Jai Bhim, Namo Buddhaya. Am I audible, team? Yeah. So first of all, let me thank Dr. Chavan, our dear friend, a senior friend, who has actually told you many things about what are the judgments on reservation in Supreme Court. And he has been, continuously tracking all this, standing in various courts and trying to defend our cases very, very nicely to the best of his possibilities, trying to group people together, and he has been doing an excellent job. Thank you, Dr. Chavan. It was very nice, very informative. And I also feel that you should have been given more time, actually, because you are kind of an encyclopedia of all this knowledge about reservation and representation. Having said that, this webinar itself is on a very, very good topic, which is close to heart to all of us. And I would rather thank Nagpur team and Mumbai team for organizing such a wonderful webinar, and that too on this very sensitive issue, and as I said, which is very close to our hearts. So now, because of a paucity of a time, I am going to speak to you on issue of concept of creamy layer. Of course, I'll be referring here and there about the judgments that have been given by Supreme Court, which Dr. Chavan told us about. So now I would limit my talk to how this creamy layer is actually a kind of a misnomer, how it badly affects to the community, because many of my friends who are into higher services, who are into IAS, who are into IPS, super class 1, they also seem to tell very illogically, I would say, that that we have we have a salary of like 2 lakh rupee a month. Why should our children go for these benefits of reservation? So I would try to give you simple examples that how it really matters for the community about this creamy layer issue. So having said that, you must be knowing that Dr. Chavan has already told us that this issue of creamy layer actually started from Indira Sahni judgment. And Indira Sahni judgment, my dear friends, let me tell you that there were 9 judges who gave that judgment, which is also called as a Mandal judgment. And there it was categorically said that creamy layer concept has to be there for OBC. They mentioned there in the judgment that this creamy layer concept will not be applicable to SC and ST because they are socially backward, and this concept of creamy layer, which is based on the economic criteria, cannot be applied to them. So they were very clear in that. And after that, what we find in Nagra judgment, it came out with some guidelines for the government, and then they said in Nagra judgment, which was surprisingly a 5-judge bench, commenting on a 9-judge Indira Sahni judgment, that creamy layer also should be thought of about for SC and STs. In Ashoka Thakur judgment in 2008, where Chief Justice Mr. Balkrishnan, he categorically stated that this creamy layer concept is not applicable for SC and ST. In 2018, now we have this Jarnail Singh judgment, wherein again 5-judge bench says that we should have creamy layer in SC and STs also. Why should benefit of reservation go to a higher creamy layered person in SC and ST category? So this whole concept of creamy layer started with OBC. Now what we say that 8 lakh rupees income of OBC, above that is a creamy layer. And then we are also trying to bring that creamy layer issue in SC and ST. 2018, I would tell you, the most sought after university in India, one of the most sought after universities, Delhi University. SC, ST quota of that Delhi University could not be fulfilled even though there was no creamy layer. One. Second, not even one secretary in the government of India belongs to SC, ST. not even one director of IIM or not even one director of IIT belongs to SC or ST. Now, these are why I am talking about these very senior posts. These are the posts of policy implementation and policy making. And we always think, when we talk about the reservation, we always think that there are so many number of posts, and then right from class 4 posts, because of course that is very, very big number about the class 4 posts. So we talk about class 4, then we come to class 3, class 2, class 1 and all that. Reservation was opposed very strongly when it came to notice of others that there would be promotions even beyond class 1, and that also on consequential seniority promotions. So then there were a lot of applications made in the Supreme Court, and many of the judgments went against SC/ST. It is very interesting to note, as Dr. Chauhan has pointed out, that the whole idea of reservation is not that reserving some post. It is about the representation of those castes who have been jeopardized about their rights for thousands of years, and now we are not so human enough to give them their due rights. I will tell you, I have worked in Government of India, also in Social Justice Department, when Mr. Mukul Vasniki was Social Justice Minister. At that time, one amendment to the Constitution was moved, which was also passed in Rajya Sabha, which mentions about SC/ST. It mentions in that amendment that SC/ST are already backward, so this economic criteria will not be applied to them. We already have 9-judge Supreme Court judgment which says that SC/ST's creamy layer will not apply to SC/ST. Then why do we have to go for another amendment? Because there are so many judgments, contradictory judgments. It is a standard procedure that if one constitutional bench, if it gives the opinion, or if it gives some kind of a directions, or it comes to certain conclusion, if it is a 5-judge bench, if it is to be reviewed, it has to be 7-judge bench. So if Indira Sahani judgment has to be reviewed, it will have to be 11 judges constitutional bench. Then only this provision, whether creamy layer would apply to SC or ST, would be taken up. Surprisingly, even in this Jarnail Singh judgment, which is of 5 judges bench, what that Supreme Court has relied upon was that one judge reference has been given, that is in state of Kerala versus Government of India, and there Mr. Iyer, who was the judge, that has been referred to, mentioning about the creamy layer. And in Ashoka Thakur case, which is 2008 case, Chief Justice was presiding over that case, where he mentions that creamy layer will not be applicable to SC/ST. Then also in Jarnail Singh, what they are saying that this Ashoka Thakur case was mainly for OBC. Even Indira Sahni judgment was also for OBC. Still it is being reviewed. And here, Jarnail Singh, we are saying that Ashoka Thakur was OBC, therefore we can't take that judgment. But even if you want to overrule Indira Sahni judgment, it is not to be by 5-judge bench, but it has to be 11 judges bench. That is what should be normally done. But what is happening is different thing. So I think these are some of the legal issues on which we have to combiningly fight and put our case, because Constitution gives us the whole right to fight our own cases. Okay, so now having said this, let us come back to this concept of creamy layer. We started with OBC, as I said, and now as of now, they wanted to exclude the richer persons from OBC. OBC have certain advantage vis-a-vis SC/ST. Nobody is untouchable in OBC, whereas that untouchability tag, even though it is removed by the Constitution, still exists. 40,000 cases are registered officially. This is the official record of Ministry of Home Affairs. 40,000 cases are registered against Prevention of Atrocity Act every year. and I have been a witness to this because I was serving in that social justice ministry. 40,000 cases are on record. We leave aside number of double, triple cases which are not even registered. But this is a record with us. This shows that the social inequality persists in India, and this representation is because of the social inequality. It is not based on economic inequalities. Therefore, in BK Pavitra and Union of India case also, which was declared in last year, there it is mentioned that India's constitution enshrines substantive equality, which recognizes that affirmative steps can't be one size fit all. No, there has to be based on the kind of a social and cultural system, caste system, which we have, which is nowhere in the world. Nobody hates another person based on his caste. Nowhere in the world. It is only in India. So this social stigma, which is in our mind, which is not going through all these resources, therefore this is a positive discrimination, and constitution allows for this positive discrimination, which is already mentioned in our constitution. But as I said, the first in 1951 first constitution amendment was done. That first constitution amendment also mentions about reservation. State of Madras versus Champakam case. Then it was the first constitution modified this reservation issue. Now we are talking about the same thing again. So right from there, there's so many judgments which have gone against all this reservation policy. So we are not ready for such kind of a representation to be given. And when we talk about the representation, this consequential promotional seniority help us to go to certain level of policy making, policy implementation, and there is which matters most. I have been in administration and I know that this is what matters most. We were talking about, I would be very happy actually. I would be very happy to transfer 5 posts of manual scavenger. Let me repeat. I would be very happy to transfer 5 posts of manual scavengers to open category and take only 1 post of super class 1 in lieu of this 5 manual scavenger posts. I would be very happy for this suggestion. If government comes on this, I would be the first one to help, because I know that being in the position of implementation and policy making is what representation was meant by Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar. He didn't want that our people should go to that 4th class or manual scavenging jobs where you can give 100% reservations. No, he wanted मौके जगह. He said कि आपने उस जगह पे जाना चाहिए जहां पे आपके पास में पावर है, जहां पे आप पॉलिसी बना सकते हो, जहां पे आप पॉलिसी इंप्लीमेंट कर सकते हो. You have to go to those places. And I have taken benefits of this reservation policy. Therefore, I came into IAS. Otherwise, I would have been IRS officer going by a merit of that year. But I got this chance through reservation, and many of our officers, they are performing exceedingly well and they are no less than others. So we got the chance, we got the opportunity, therefore we got the representation, and therefore we are here. Having said that, let me give you a small example how this concept of creamy layer and what we have in our mind that richer people should be excluded. In our mind also, some of the officers also think in that way. So I have another counter argument for that. I'll just give you an example. When I was in Delhi, so there is one scheme by National Scheduled Caste Commission, Finance Commission. So we have a finance commission for scheduled caste there in Delhi, which works under Social Justice Department. In Maharashtra, we have Mahatma Phule Corporation. So there was one scheme there is now also, that 30 lakh rupees were to be given for a scheduled caste candidate to set up his business. So I was reviewing all the schemes when I went there, and I got a chance to modify it, with, of course, with the support of Mr. Mukul Vasni. There I got this, I was going through this scheme, and then I asked for some data that how many persons of scheduled caste have taken benefit of this 30 lakh rupees scheme. To my surprise, not even one. Please listen carefully. Not even one got benefit out of this 30 lakh scheme. Then I went through that GR, that what should be the reason. I asked them why, what is the reason. They were telling me कि साहब कोई आते ही नहीं, there is nobody that comes. So then I went through that GR and I found one very nice arrangement made so that nobody takes advantage of that. What was it? It has been designed in such a way that this scheme, there you get some subsidy from government, which was very less, 10-20,000 rupees out of 30 lakh rupees. But it was said that other money would come from banks. Other money would come from bank. There has to be a bank loan. 10% would be, 5% would be from this scheduled caste guy. So out of 30 lakhs, he manages 1.5 lakhs. And then he has to go to the bank to ask for 28 lakh rupees of a loan. So far, so good. But the hitch, the line that was mentioned there was, he has to be from BPL, below poverty line. They said that this scheme is for BPL. We want to bring them to above poverty line. I asked them just one question. That tell me, which bank is going to give a loan of 28 lakh rupees to a person who is below poverty line? Will they not ask for some kind of a collateral, some kind of a mortgage? Will this below poverty line guy have that kind of house, land with him? If he had, why he would be under BPL? In last 20-25 years of period, not even one guy could avail that loan because this was the policy. We got it modified. But just to tell you why it matters to be on the post of policies, why it matters that our representation has to be there at the highest level possible. It matters to be a secretary to Government of India. It matters to be chief secretary of a state government. It matters to be a director of IIT there, because we don't find that the posts of professors, those are not filled in IIT. SC, ST, they are not available. That is what they are saying. Now, this is the whole scenario. What we are looking at, we will normally look when we say that whether what is the percentage of posts that have been filled up. So if we take class 4 posts, class 3 posts, then we find that, oh, it is more than 90%, 95% posts are filled. But those 10% posts which are not filled up, those are of this stature. 10-15% जो पोस्ट नहीं भरे जाते वो ये पोस्ट है. जैसे मैंने बोला, therefore I said there is not even one secretary, scheduled caste secretary to Government of India today. Nobody. Now let us come that why this thing happened. I will see. I am saying that creamy layer should not be applied for scheduled caste and scheduled tribe. I have no personal interest. Please remember that. I have no son. I have no daughter at all. I have announced, I plan not to have any kids. That is a decision which we have taken. So I have no personal interest, because I see that one principal secretary rank IS officer from Maharashtra cadre, he has been, he has been damned. And people have said that he changed the GR of Government of Maharashtra so that his son is benefited to get the foreign scholarship benefit. That is not the case. Let me put it on record. He was not the principal secretary of Social Justice Department when the GR was made. He was not at all. But still, people are saying that. So this is how they, they accuse our officers who have not done anything wrong. They just took the benefit of this policy. But having said that, and having also said that nobody from my family is going to be benefited from this scheme, therefore I have no personal interest in this. But as a policy and as for the society, why this concept of creamy layer is wrong, this I will try to explain in 10 minutes of a time, because the topic is so big. So therefore I was requesting that 4 speakers in one webinar is too much. It should have been a little less, but all of you are busy and nobody has time. So then they crammed everybody in. But and tomorrow also we have very good sessions, very good speakers, so they also would require more time actually. So having said that, I'll try to tell you what is my position on this creamy layer. I will give my personal example again. As I said that I'm not going to benefit from this at all. So how does it happen? Me, I was a medical, I went to medical college. I was a medical officer, and my family, just like your family, just like any scheduled caste or scheduled tribe family, we also had to go through all kind of hardship from our childhood and everything. So far, that's all right. That's okay. We struggled and we came to this position. But what happened? I joined IAS in the age of 27. My batchmates, they joined IAS in the age of 24. So they would serve 3 years more than me. Now, why? Since I have been from that background, the first thing after my graduation was not to go for a post graduation or anything, but was for a job. Because my two brothers and one sister, they were also studying, and my father had just retired as a primary teacher. So I had to earn. So to earn, I had to go for a job. So 1 year internship, 2 years job, and then I resigned from the job, and then I studied. So because earlier attempts I failed, so I resigned, and then I went for, and then I got through IS. But why I'm giving you this example, so that you can clearly understand. I had to spend 3 years of my life in that job, and then 1 more year, because I had to prepare for 1 extra year after leaving the job. So therefore I cleared in age of 27. My friends from open category, they did not go for any job. They started their study right from the day they passed their graduation, or even before that. I could not do it. Now, had my father been an IS officer, had he been well settled, had he been a professor earning so much of money, he would have said to me that don't go for a job, you directly go for IAS if you want to do it. I would have studied, and I also, like others, I would have also got into IAS at the age of 24. Giving you another example. Who becomes a professor in IIT? The one who had before 35 years of his age, who had certain kind of PhD qualifications, certain kind of research papers to him, certain kind of pre-qualifications are required. Because again there, because of this social strata background, he again has to go for a job, he earns some money, then goes for post-graduation, goes for PhD. So the time gap between him and almost 5 to 8 years of time. Here also in IAS, average year for scheduled caste, scheduled tribe to pass is more than 30 years. That is around 30 years is average years. Whereas for open category, it is just 23 or 24 years. So you see that this is what is the difference. This is what is the difference. So all these higher posts, if I leave this, let us assume that if I had a son, I have no son. If I had a son, then this creamy layer would be, I will be under that creamy layer, and my son will not, he would not get the benefit of this reservation. So what, he will have to compete in the open. So then this post, by this standard, it will go to a poor boy. Now poor boy, if he becomes graduate at the age of 22, 23, he will not appear for IS. What he will do? He will go for a job. He will work for 2-3 years, earn some money, and then he will apply for IS. He becomes then super class 1 officer, let us assume. His son will not get the benefit. Then another poor guy gets the benefit. He would also. So what would happen? The average time period of entering into such a IAS, IPS, IRAS, whatever, secretaries, or for IITs, or for IIM, or for Indian Institute of Excellence, all these where you make the policies for the government, for the people, there we will not have our people at the highest position. And what would happen? I gave you the example that how that BPL scheme was designed in such a way that none could get a benefit of that in last 25 years. When we are there, I'm not saying that all our officers are like they work for the society, no, but when we are there we have a better understanding, and therefore this representation in every sector is sought not only in India, it is sought even in US, because there also there is a clear racist philosophy that exists. But one difference which I find in India and in America, my brother is also settled in America, one difference which we find there is there are so many whites who also support this blacks movement, whereas I don't find a single upper caste who supports anti-caste movement here. Anti-caste means annihilation of caste. Nobody supports this annihilation of caste. They want reservation to go away. They don't want caste to go away, so that their powerful position, social hierarchy is maintained in the same way, and that mental setup of we have slaves under our feet, that always remains. So I think this mental attitude we need to break, and this could be possible only through certain representative actions, reservations, through which we go to certain highest level of policy making. And this, at I said this, we have to enter at younger age. If we enter at younger age, then only we can go to such kind of a highest level. Now I said that I got into IS at the age of 27. So there are very less chances of me becoming Chief Secretary of India, Chief Secretary of Maharashtra. There are very less chances of me becoming Secretary to Government of India. Had I not been wasting my 3 years, had I been from a affluent family, I would not have to go for a job. But our problem is, if I leave this opportunity to pass it on to my son, it or my daughter, it goes to a poor guy who will not appear immediately. Let me tell you, he will not appear immediately because his first thing is नौकरी करना है, दो पैसे उसको आना है. So if you think in this way, all these super class positions you can get if you enter into this service or any other service at a very younger age. Then only you reach to this. If you want to become a technical secretary in PW department of Government of Maharashtra, you have to enter at a very young age. Although there is a consequential promotional seniority that is given, but later on, you know, it is kind of a standardized. So you are equated with your batchmates from open category. And now there is already a case from Maharashtra which is in the Supreme Court, and they have stopped all these promotions for SC and STs, even for VGNTs. So that level which we want to achieve of policy making and policy implementation, we are being debarred from there. And therefore my request to all my learned friends, those who are at a very senior post, please don't have this in your mind. And for all social workers, don't have this in your mind that by keeping out this creamy layer or so-called small section in scheduled caste and scheduled tribe who have started earning some money, that their sons or daughters should not get this. Please don't have this in mind. Let us say that when should we do this? Will there be reservation in perpetuity? I say no, we don't want in perpetuity. Let us fix some standards that when the posts of Secretary to Government of India are fulfilled in representation of SC and STs, if we reach to that level, let us stay there for 10 more years. Whenever we reach, maybe it is after 30 years or 50 years. After that, let us stay on same position still for next 10 years. You observe and you see that all posts are being equated as per the open category also. Then we can think of whether to do away with reservation or not, whether to apply for creamy layer at all or not. But as of now, for next 50 years, I would be rather fully opposing that this creamy layer should not be there at all for SC and ST, because the very basis of reservation, again I am commenting, the very basis of reservation is not economic criteria at all. It is the social status, and if you give me loads of money, my social status, even if I am an IS officer, it doesn't rise at all. I am Kamle, I am scheduled caste, so people would look at me in the same scenario. वही नजर से देखते हैं, वही समाज को वैसे ही नजर से देखते हैं. This would improve only when the society, the whole community itself rises to certain level. And to bring them to certain level, we need good policies. To bring them to certain level, we need good policy makers. And we need those persons, good implementers of these policies, those who are at the highest level. Those who are at the highest level, they can effectively implement this. They can effectively tell the government what should be the best of the policies. Tomorrow we have Dr. Sukhdev Thorat. I held him in a very high esteem. He has done such a wonderful work. He has a lot of data with him. He can tell you by the tip of his finger that this is what is the economic standard of scheduled caste. This is what is educational standards. He has wonderful work he has done, and he has conducted one survey. He sent in private organizations. He sent around 5,000 test biodatas without mentioning their caste, and many of them received. Let us say 20-25% of them received the calls. For again, he sent the same applications mentioning their caste. Only 3 to 4% received with the same qualification. Only 3 to 4% received the calls from the private companies. So this tells the true story of India. This tells what is our mindset. So to bring out of those mindset, we have to try, of course, through sources outside government, but government is the biggest employer, is the biggest power giver, because government makes the policies. Government implements the policies for the people of India. And we the people of India, we are the people of India. ये देश हमारा है. ये देश में हमारा भी रिप्रेजेंटेशन उतना ही होना चाहिए जितना बाकी लोगों का है. और इसके लिए हमारा रिप्रेजेंटेशन, जैसे मैंने बोला कि वो मैनुअल स्कैवेंजिंग वर्कर्स में नहीं, तो हमारा जो सुपर क्लास 1 की पोस्ट है, जो सेक्रेटरी टू गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया है, जो सेक्रेटरी टू स्टेट गवर्नमेंट है, ये बड़ी बड़ी पोस्ट जहां पर पॉलिसी बनाई जाती है, वहां पे जाना चाहिए हमने. और कब जाएंगे हम वहां पे? इफ वी एंटर एट यंगर एज, then we reach to such kind of highest positions. We have to target those highest positions. For that, if we have this creamy layer concept, the whole upper layer which would be competing for this top post, that would be gone, and we will have those from middle or lower socio-economic status who would be competing for this post, but their requirement would be first to go for a job, and they would be joining late. So therefore, I am saying that this whole concept of creamy layer is a misnomer. It should not be applied for SC and ST. 50 साल के बाद में हमने इसके बारे में सोचना भी है, तो 50 साल के बाद में सोचना चाहिए. अभी इसके ऊपर सोचने की कोई जरूरत नहीं है. And those who are from higher income groups, from scheduled caste and scheduled tribe, my request to them would be that they should not keep this in their mind. Rather, they should not let their wards, their daughters and sons to go for a job, but they should see to it that their sons or daughters enter into any service at the age of 21. Immediately they should start studying for these higher jobs during graduation itself, not after graduation. During graduation, in my batch, in my batch 97 batch, we have one lady officer, Gayatri Meghwal. She is from scheduled caste. She came into IS at the age of 22, and she is from very affluent family of Rajasthan. Her uncle was a minister over there. She is a scheduled caste, but nobody told her to go for a job. She started studying for UPSC IAS right at the age of 18, when she just passed her 12th standard. By 22, after her graduation, she passed into IS. So she did not go for a job because the environment was very good. Therefore, she has every chance to become Chief Secretary of Rajasthan. She has every chance to become Cabinet Secretary of India because of her age factor. So that is the most powerful administrative post of India. Therefore, these are the live examples in front of you. Let us not get bogged down by such kind of a propaganda that giving such kind of a benefits to poorer helps our society. No, it would help only to the extent of going into class 2, class 3, class 4, not at the top position. Please remember this, not at the top position. And we have to target the top positions. And therefore, again, I am repeating that this concept of creamy layer itself should never be discussed for SC and ST. It has been specifically mentioned in Indira Sahni judgment. There is a legal opinion of 9 judges bench, constitutional bench. Even if it is to be reviewed, it has to be done by 11 judges bench and not 7 judges bench also. That is what is my opinion, and I feel very strongly about this, and I would like to take any kind of questions on this. I think I am overshooting my time, but thank you so much for listening to me. And again, I would thank organizers for conducting such kind of a wonderful webinar. I would also like to thank Dr. Nitin Raut, our Honorable Minister of Energy for Government of Maharashtra, who has taken very bold steps of stopping this new GR, which talks about the creamy layer. So there it was that first 100, there should be no creamy layer for first 100. And with much difficulty, actually, we brought we brought that GR into existence in 2015. And now it was being cancelled. I fully oppose that, the new GR. But now it has been stayed. I think that is good, and we should fight it out. Why should we have such kind of a creamy layer there? Instead of that, we should argue and we should say that we should have 300, we should have 400, we should have 500 overseas scholarship by Government of Maharashtra. Why not? We are not able to spend our money. So I think from the overall pool of scheduled caste component plan, so I think we should concentrate more on education. We should send a maximum of our students possible to outside. Let us give them exposure so that they come to know about how the world is. It was Dr. Bahishkrit Ambedkar who went to US, who went to UK. He saw the whole world. He saw the values of democracy there. He saw the values of humanity there. Therefore, he came here fully charged with those values. And there he mentioned all these values in Constitution. Never it was discussed, neither in Pune Pact. This economic criteria was not discussed. Neither in 37, when there was actual seats representation, this was not mentioned. Never it was mentioned. So our constitutional makers at that time also, it included from all caste and communities. They never mentioned this economic criteria, and we are taking it now because few of us, very, very few, minuscule of them have risen, and even that has become kind of a, people are jealous about it because they can't see those who were working under their feet. So it is their heart. You should be so empathetic. You should be proud that everybody in India we say that we are brothers and sisters. We should be proud that somebody belonging to untouchable category has risen to such an extent. He has written the Constitution of India, but still some of the people hate him for that. I don't know. But this fight, of course, will go on. This struggle, of course, will go on. But such kind of a misnomer should not come into our mind, and let us not divert this. Let us, instead of making all experiments on scheduled caste or scheduled tribe, let us first try this kind of experiments on open category. Let us start creamy layer in open category. For example, those who have 20 lakh or above income, they should not take benefit of any government college, any government medical college, or any government engineering college, or any nursing government college, because seats are limited. There are so many open category, open institute, private institutes, colleges now. We have medical colleges also. So let us start with open category. That would be my first solution to this. And later on, as I said, that after 50 years, when at the highest level, we are equating with open categories. There also we watch for further 10 years. So after 50 years or so, we can discuss this issue, not now. So that would be, let us not get confused by kind of a propaganda that is made here. So let us strongly oppose this so that we are able to go to those highest level at a younger age. Please remember this, and thank you so much. Thank you, organizers, for giving me this opportunity to keep my views in front of you. Thank you. Jai Bhim, Namo Buddhaya.
Hello. Should I start? हॅलो, आवाज येतोय सगळ्यांना? हॅलो हॅलो हॅलो, कॅन एव्हरीबडी हिअर मी? हॅलो, hello, Jai Bhim to all. First of all, I thank the organizers for organizing this extremely important webinar on such sensitive and nationally important topic. I call nationally it is only because it's not only from scheduled caste and scheduled tribe points of view, but the development of scheduled caste and scheduled tribes and also OBCs is extremely important from point of view of the development of nation as a whole. I'm grateful to all of you for inviting me for this webinar. The point is that I have listened, I have heard the three speeches of Mr. Minister Nitin Raut, Dr. Chauhan, and Dr. Harshvardhan Kamble. And all these three informative speeches, I think, can give much wider information to the people exactly what issues are involved. Now, since much has been discussed about reservation, the legalistic point of view, the actual implementation status of the reservations, I don't want to go into the repeating the same things. I rather propose to deal with what are the national crises in the context of which we are discussing the reservations. See, we are discussing reservation in 2020. Reservation policy meant for the scheduled caste and scheduled tribes. Initially, only after Mandal Commission in 1989, when Vishwanath Pratap Singh implemented, that became the issue of controversy. But initially, the issue of reservation policy remained confined only to the scheduled caste and scheduled tribes. Now, let us try to understand the context under which we are discussing and debating the issue of reservation. Our discussion of reservation policy cannot be the same in 2020 as it was in 1950s, 1960s, 1970s. We have got now a lot of information about the reservation policy. We have seen the impact of the reservation policy. We have seen how bad implementation of reservation policy and how misinformation is created and spread across the sections of the society so that people can have resentment and there can be public opinion built up that reservation needs to be scrapped. That's why the context has undergone a change. First of all, one great information. Once I was on a national channel and the celebrated lawyer, okay, counsel of the Supreme Court, and now who is in practicing in London High Court, he was accompanying me on that TV channel. And he said that, see, Professor Munkekar, reservations were only for initial 10 years. Now, how is it that they're continuing now? I was laughing and laughing and laughing. A Supreme Court senior lawyer, one of the brains and outstanding lawyers of the country, did not know that the reservation period for 10 years only for the political reservations, that is the parliament and the state legislatures. And that is why every 10 years they need to be reviewed. Now 2021, they will be considered an amendment and they will be reviewed. There was no time limit for reservation for scheduled caste and scheduled tribes in employment as well as in the education sector. So this kind of information, each and everybody is feeding this misinformation, and the kind of resentment is created. Who reservation? How many years they will continue? Our point is reservation will continue till the caste system continues. Because it is because of the caste system reservations were brought in the constitution. Had infamous Manusmriti had not been written, had infamous and defaming Manusmriti would not have ruled the country for hundreds of years, had it not prescribed the jobs as per the caste, the subcaste, the kind of clothes that you will be using, the kind of food that you will be eating, the kind of houses that you will be staying, so much discriminatory document in the human society will be unparalleled so far Manusmriti is concerned. And that is why, let me tell you again, many of us call that we have got new Manusmriti. Manusmriti should be condemned, even name should not be achieved. I mean, it should be referred to. That's why this kind of misinformation. Now, second, I was talking about the context. I will not give a long speech because time is almost running and I don't want to keep you captive and most of the things have been said. What is the context? Now, we are talking about that the reservations source is the Indian Constitution. It is the Indian Constitution, Article 15, 16, they are providing the reservation. They are providing the reservation in the sense that uh, uh, the claims of the people and nothing will prevent the state from making special provisions for the socially and educationally backward classes and the members of the scheduled caste and scheduled tribe for their overall development. This is the nothing can prevent. There is no word reservation. Okay. Now, even please let us remember that there is no word reservation in the constitution at any point of time. What is written is the claims of the scheduled caste and scheduled tribes will be taken into account while public employment is to be given, consistent with the norms of the efficiency. Now the question is that when we are talking about that the Indian Constitution is the source of the reservation or source of the affirmative action almost everywhere in the world, it is called different by different names. For example, affirmative action, there is no reservation quota in America, but still without quota, America is implementing affirmative policy much better than any other country in the world. I was talking about the context. And when we are discussing about the reservation, what is the context? Context is after 1950, 60, 70, and particularly the reactionary, the regressive social sections have come to the power at the center and in some of the states. The very constitution itself is getting challenged. They are trying to dismantle one provision of the constitution after another. That's why challenging the constitution, destroying the spirit of the constitution, destroying the novel features of the constitution, destroying the provisions of the liberty, equality, fraternity, and justice of the constitution is the greatest crisis. And in that context, in the context of that overall social, political, cultural, economic, educational crisis, we are discussing the reservation policy. That's why to all of you, I am requesting sincerely that we cannot discuss reservation policy meaningfully and come to certain conclusion regarding what actions we are proposed to take. Because what happens is, after describing everything, we have to come across some sort of action. What is to be done? What is to be done? And that is the last part of my that. Now the first is when Anil Hirekhan and his colleagues and his Bombay team, they have taken the initiative. When Anil asked me that, sir, what topic you would like to speak? I said that reservation policy, distortions and reality. Exactly this was the booklet I had written in 1981 when there was anti-reservation agitation in Gujarat opposing the reservation of seats for the scheduled castes in the medical colleges. It was the first starting point in 1981 and Mandal came in 1989. That was a different story altogether. Now the question is, there are four important points which are distorting the things. And all our academicians, policymakers, social thinkers, scientists, teaching community, those who are journalists, those who are professionals, those who are lawyers, those who are opinion makers, they need to take these 4 points into account while debating the issue of the competition, issue of the reservation policy. First is we must dispose of the argument so-called of merit. Now nobody is against merit, but in India, merit is a bogus concept. Suppose, for example, since we are Buddhist, we don't hate any community, we don't hate any caste, we don't hate any religion. But sociologically, let me tell you, if we go, I have gone through Vedas, I have gone through Upanishads, okay, and I have read thoroughly Manusmriti, how infamous and distorted and perverse it is. Why is it that merit is given on the basis of the caste. Nowhere in the world the caste-based merit is decided or judged upon. Merit is decided by the person's ability. Merit is decided by the persons when they are provided with equal opportunities or not. There's a merit of, let us take the scheduled caste person. IAS officer scheduled caste son's merit and scheduled caste person working as a landless laborers in say tomorrow Amaravati or tomorrow Chandrapur district. Even they belonging to the same caste, their merit will not be the same. That's why there is the difference which is called intra-caste difference so far merit is concerned. And then you cannot consider by birth that some castes are meritorious and some castes are meritorious. Second point, when we read philosophy, when we read ethics, reservations doesn't have only political sanctity. Reservation doesn't have only constitutional sanctity. Reservations have philosophical sanctity. Reservations have ethical sanctity. Reservations have moral sanctity. And that what is moral sanctity? Moral sanctity is that in the society where opportunities are unequal, in that society, you cannot have same standards of merit. Suppose, for example, IAS officer or cabinet secretary's son or daughter getting 99% marks in one examination, okay, provided all facilities, all privileges, all conditions, and getting 99% marks. An agricultural scheduled caste, scheduled tribe laborer in Hingoli district, suppose for example, in Marathwada, what are the conditions, what are the opportunities, what are the facilities? Okay, no light, no room, no library facilities, not regularly, father is drunkard, mother is selling vegetables. If his daughter or son is getting 45% marks, then according to me, those 45% marks of scheduled caste agricultural laborer are more meritorious than the 90% marks of the cabinet secretary who is living in Kappare. That's why in unequal society, in inegalitarian society, society guided, based, controlled, and regulated by all sorts of inequality, economic, social, political, cultural, educational, etc. They cannot be considered with the same yardsticks, and that is why we are not against merit, but we are against the bogus concept of merit, which is demanding or used by measured with the same yardsticks in unequal society. Second challenge of efficiency. Now, when scheduled caste persons occupies a relatively higher position, always people consider that now efficiency will be impaired, efficiency will be adversely affected. That's as merit is decided on the basis of caste, efficiency also is decided on the basis of caste. It is the greatest foolish thing anywhere in the world. Efficiency depends not only about your marks. Efficiency doesn't depend only on your caste. The two persons of the same caste having equal merit, one will be more efficient, another will be less efficient. Even two IAS officers from the same caste, even Brahmins, Marathas, OBCs, or even scheduled caste, X, Y, Z, and ABC, same caste IAS officers, same marks, same ranking, one will be more efficient than the other because efficiency requires complete concentration, efficiency requires commitment to work, efficiency requires morality, efficiency requires efforts to prove your ability, completing your work or doing your work without any kind of mistake, without any kind of imperfections. That's why efficiency, like merit, cannot be caste based. Third important thing is historical dimensions of reservation. Now, historical dimensions, I think Phule, the one of the gurus of Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar, and he did right thing that he accepted Jyotirao Phule as his guru, one of the gurus along with Kabir and Lord Buddha. And who were the Shudra's book that he has written? He has devoted that book to Dr. Lokmanya, Jyotirao Phule. And the title is that the greatest Shudra of the 19th century. Now, this historical dimension also we cannot look up, and that historical dimension, even today, in some form or the other, caste has changed its role, caste is changed its form, caste is changed its outward appearance. Even untouchability has changed its outward appearance, but still, caste system, the untouchability, the Varna system, their essence remain the same. And that is why we demand that reservations will continue till caste system continue. You abolish the caste system, you provide all sorts of opportunities to every individual, every group of individual in exactly identical manner. You nationalize agriculture, you nationalize complete industry, you nationalize entire education. Today, there are 600 universities, out of which 300 state universities, 50 central universities, and 150 private universities, 100 deemed to be universities. Now, what are these deemed to be universities? When I was member of the planning commission, I suggested that either there can be deemed university or there cannot be university. Now, all these deemed universities came into existence only after privatization of education. No industrialist was coming forward before 1991 for opening the education society. All education societies were earlier run by the public trust, and most of the public trust throughout the country they were started and registered by the relative better off sections and particularly Brahmin community. Okay, that's why the question is these reservation policies historical background also remain the same. That's why the first point is we are not against merit, we are not against efficiency. We are not against what is called any kind of caste-based consideration. We want reservation to continue till the caste system continues. Otherwise, nationalize everything. No private ownership of means of production. No private land. No private education institutions. No private industry. And then each and every will be given equal opportunity. If this is possible, then only we are opposed to a removal of the reservation, not otherwise. Let me now come to the concept of creamy layer, which Dr. Harishvardhan Kambli just now mentioned. It is again a bogus thing. See, for example, 3% or 4% Brahmins in the country, they are controlling 60%, 70% posts. Is the creamy layer born? Creamy layer is born or creamy layer is made? We have nothing against any particular community. We are talking about historical perspective and sociological perspective. That's why creamy layer concept has come into now with the Mandal Commission. I don't want to go into that precisely because there is difference between the scheduled caste and scheduled tribes on one hand and the OBC on the other. There is no term OBC in the Constitution. Constitution speak about socially and educationally backward classes. One, social and educational backward classes, that the OBCs, they were never untouchables. They were part of the Shudra. They were part of the Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. All my friends in the country who are the OBCs, they are about 50%. They are under the influence of Hindutva. They have no status in Hindutva at all. All OBCs in this country, they are Shudras. They are used for the political purpose by the upper caste people, that they must remember. From the upper caste people, competent scheduled castes are much preferred by the upper caste people rather than the competent OBCs. OBCs don't have their own independent status, they are just Shudras. Second important distinction is OBCs are the land owning castes. OBCs in North India or anywhere in the country, okay, upper caste, intermediate caste, and the OBCs. These have been the land owning caste, and that is the difference. Untouchable scheduled castes were untouchables, and they were considered scheduled tribe in 1935 Government of India Act, and scheduled tribes, they were geographically isolated. That's why creamy layer we don't accept. What happens is the entire concept of creamy layer, we must go back to sociology. What is their argument? Their argument is that the benefits of reservations are taken by the better off sections among the scheduled castes, and they are not going below relatively poorer sections of the scheduled caste. Now try to understand the sociological contradiction. We have to discuss certain theoretical perspective. Now suppose, for example, first is reservations is not anti-poverty program. Reservation is not just like Mahatma Gandhi Employment Guarantee Scheme. Reservation is anti-discrimination program. Since Hindu society and largely the Indian society, because caste also is now among Muslims and Christians, except Parsis, everybody is having caste. Scheduled caste population is much and more, 33% in Punjab. The question is that when we are talking of 10% of the better off sections of the scheduled caste, they are taking the benefits, and 80% poor scheduled caste do not get the benefits. The question is, on one hand, they are talking of merit, and on the other hand, they are talking of the poor among the scheduled caste. Now, suppose 10% relatively better off sections of the scheduled caste are eliminated. Okay, and you go 80%. We want that 80% should be given preference. I am particularly in favor of 80%, okay, compared to the 10% top. But see the logic, and logic is deceptive. Hello? Now I was talking about the creamy layer. Suppose, for example, these 10% are eliminated. Now, on one hand, you are talking of merit. Now, on one hand, you are talking of merit, and a scheduled caste cutoff point for medical or engineering is say 80% or 85% cutoff point. Now, the question is, you are getting a cutoff point of 85% only among the top 10% of the relatively better off sections of the scheduled caste. Are you going to get 85% cutoff students in the bottom 80%? The answer is no. Now, on one hand, talking of bogus concept of merit. Now, you have eliminated meritorious among the scheduled caste. You want to go down to give justice to the less meritorious or poorer among the scheduled caste. Now, scheduled caste, poorer scheduled caste, highest percentage suppose is 65. Now, when you are not getting 80% mark admission as meritorious among the better off sections of the society, are you going to give that seat to 65% wala among the poorer sections of the scheduled caste? It means you are playing a bogus card in order to eliminate the relatively better off sections of the scheduled caste. You are playing a bogus card of intra-scheduled caste inequality. That top 10% or 15% scheduled caste versus bottom 80%, 90% poorer scheduled caste. This is how misinformation, this is how wrong sociology, this is how perverse logic is spread by the vested interest in the society. That is why we totally reject the creamy layer. We totally reject the creamy layer so far the scheduled caste are concerned. And suppose, for example, if we want to introduce the creamy layer and eliminate the creamy layer, and the poorer sections are going to get the admissions, poorer section of scheduled caste getting 35% mark in order to fill up your quota. Are you going to give the admission to the poorer section of the scheduled caste with 35% marks? Will you be able to understand? I am all for that. I am not for 10% upper scheduled caste. My point is, you also are not for 10% bottom 80% poor scheduled caste. You want to create misunderstanding within the scheduled caste that because of the better of sections among the scheduled castes are taking all benefits, that's why you poorer scheduled castes are not getting the benefit. This is the anomaly. This is the bogus politics. That is why we are opposed to the concept of creamy layer. Now, coming back to the another important point is, when we are having class positions, class 1, class 2, class 3 and class 4. I don't want to go into the statistics. I was working in the planning commission 5 years in charge of social justice. Okay. I was member of Rajya Sabha for 6 years. I spoke on 45 topics. And recently, most humbly, I will request you to note that my encounters in parliament, my 260 pages book has been published, my speeches in the parliament. All these issues I had discussed in the parliament. Now, my question is, you have got class 1, class 2, class 3 and class 4 post. In the Hindu social system, you are having Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra. These 4 grades in the Hindu social order and 4 grades in your bureaucratic order, they are exactly tallying with each other. They are corresponding with each other. In the sense, scheduled caste, suppose for example, 15% class 1, class 2, class 3, class 4. Then 15% quota will be filled in scavengers, even 20%. Now even scavengers quota is not fulfilled because scavengers is hired out. There is no reservation. Class 4 staff positions also hired out. So class 4 positions also there are no reservations now sufficiently. But you are implementing 15% for class 4, 13% for class 3, 10% for class 2, and 1 or 2% for class 1. Means as you are going below and below and below, you are fulfilling the reservation somewhat. But you are going from below to top, you are not fulfilling the reservations at all. I raised the question in the parliament, the Ministry of Department of Personnel, and which is working under the Prime Minister, and there is Minister of State, and I wanted to know the data. How many class 1 officers, how many secretaries, how many joint secretaries, how many additional secretaries likewise. You know how they gave the information? They gave the information in 2014 or 15 that secretaries were equivalent. Now all of you know, Ms. Harshavardhan Patil is here, Dr. Chavan is here, that equivalent is not the same as the secretary. You can give more salary to the equivalent post than the secretary. But the equivalent position does not get the power of the decision making as the secretary has. Who runs the government?
Yes.
Do you mean that ministers run the government? Ministers are policy makers. They take the political decision. Okay. Actual bureaucracy, actual decision implementer and also policy maker, even misguiding the ministers. That is the job is done by the bureaucracy. Indian bureaucracy has its own caste. In fact, bureaucracy should not have caste. Bureaucracy should not have class. Bureaucracy should not have religion. Bureaucracy should be completely secular. Bureaucracy should give the guidance to the minister purely on the basis of what is interest of the social system. But Indian bureaucracy, the social origin, long back Subramaniam has written books, social origin of Indian, background of India's administrators. That's what the question is. The caste system and class system, they are exactly parallel to each other. Okay. Now, I would talk about how the system is becoming aggressive. 6 years I was in parliament. 6 years, there were never substantial discussions on the problems and the questions and the issues concerning the scheduled caste and scheduled tribes. There were never discussions. I wanted calling attention motion in the Rajya Sabha on the atrocities on the scheduled caste. That motion was never allowed. The unemployment, discrimination, harassment, atrocities, civic right offences, these issues are not discussed in the parliament. Yes, a parliament also is unfortunately dominated by the caste interests. Now you talked about executive. The executive means ministries and the bureaucracy, and you know their social background. That's why every point they will devise a policy. They will make a policy in such a way that they will not be implemented. The policy will not be implemented in proper manner. Now the most important danger today is I'm particularly drawing attention of uh, Dr. Chavan. That is the most important and crisis-like point is judiciary's recent decisions during last 4 or 5 years. They are completely against the interest of the scheduled caste and scheduled tribe. In fact, sometimes I surprise that how is it that whatever ministries and the government wants, exactly the judgments of the Supreme Courts come parallel to that or consistent with that. Now, I don't mean at all that the government is telling the Supreme Court or High Court, you give this kind of decision. I know the contempt of court and I don't want to commit that. But what happens is, whatever government is thinking, exactly judgments are coming on par with whatever government is thinking. Now, recently, they brought the issue of is reservation a fundamental right? After 73 years of implementation of reservation, you are raising the question whether it is fundamental right. If it is not fundamental right, then it would not have been part 3 of the Indian Constitution. Indian Constitution part 3rd deals with the fundamental rights. Part 4 deals with the directive principles of the state policy. That's why the provision of the reservations is not kept in the directive principles of the state policy. That's why reservation issue may not be fundamental right per se, but reservations have the spirit of the fundamental rights. Reservations have the spirit of fundamental rights, and it is binding. And the fundamental rights implementation is binding on the state. Similarly, the implementation of the reservation policy meant for the scheduled castes and scheduled tribes and also for the OBCs is binding on the state. Whether you call fundamental right or non-fundamental right, we treat them as fundamental right. Now the next point is that so far these issues are concerned, what is the solution for this point is concerned? Are we going to depend only upon the government employment? Now, Indian economy 1991 onwards, it is virtually privatized. Tomorrow you will have discussion on privatization, and we are demanding reservations in private sector. Now the question is, when the entire private sector is living on the benefits and privileges and the concessions and the opportunities given by the private and public institution, land is given by the public sector, loans are given by the public sector, then equity given by the public sector, counter guarantee given by the public sector, light, energy, electricity, roads, everything given by the public sector. They are ownership with the private sector, and that's why they are called private sector. That's why we want reservation in private sector, but that is distant dream. We should keep our fight continuously. We should fight for reservation private sector, but I do not think they will yield, because if the reservations in the employment in the public sector they are not fully implementing, then how difficult it would be to give the reservation in the private sector. Despite the fact I am for one that we should fight for reservation in the private sector. Now under this condition, what are the action points? The action points is that all our representatives in the parliament and the state legislature, okay, members of parliament, both Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha, there are about 145. I'm sorry to say, 6 years I have seen in the parliament, our members of parliament do not aggressively fight for the rights of the scheduled caste and scheduled tribes. they are depending upon their political party. I don't want to antagonize any one of them. Almost all of them, they're my friends. Okay. At one time of time when in the Rajya Sabha, I was taking keen interest in the forum of the scheduled caste and scheduled tribe. Earlier, respected Shri Gawai Sahab was the chairman of the forum. The point is, these representatives of the scheduled caste and scheduled tribes in Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. Rajya Sabha, of course, there is no reservation, but the state assemblies, they must fight for the rights, the fundamental rights, and the privileges given by the constitution to the members of the scheduled caste and scheduled tribes. Now, unfortunately, they are not doing that successfully because their party is given them the ticket, their party is giving them the funds, their party is giving them the election ticket, their party is making the propaganda machinery, their party is getting them elected, their party is giving the privileged position in the assembly, in the ministry, and that is why it has become a crisis. There are few ministers, there are few MLAs, few MLCs. They are fighting within their party that these things, these facilities must be provided to the scheduled caste. If scheduled caste and scheduled tribe representatives behave like normal members of the parliament, like general members of the parliament, then I think we are losing the battle. Because except scheduled caste and scheduled tribes, all other members of parliament, all other members of state legislative assemblies, their interests are common. As Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar used to say, that the progressive Hindus and the reactionary Hindus, they are the arms of the same body. When one is in danger, another is bound to defend. This means those who are progressive, I don't want to underestimate them, but their fight cannot go beyond a certain limit because they are caste bound. That's why this is the first important thing, that our representatives should be more vocal, more active, more straightforward. They should fight within their political parties for the benefits of the scheduled caste and scheduled tribes within the forum of the parliament, Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, Vidhan Sabha, Vidhan Parishad, etc. The second important point what is to be done is that hereafter issue of reservation is going to become more and more controversial. Let me warn you, it is not easy going thing. As the jobs will be more and more scarce, as the private sector will be more and more enlarged, as the reservation policy will be getting more and more eroded, as the reservation policy will be more and more lapse, as the reservation policy will be more and more irrelevant because of the state role or the government role in the economy is shrinking further and further and further. That's why the issue of reservation, okay, is going to become more and more controversial in the future. That's why we have to fight on two levels. One, we have to fight for the continuation of the reservation till the caste system prevails. And second, we have to now enter the field of industry. We have now to enter the field of the skill sector. We have now to enter the field of the cooperative sector. We have now to enter the field of the education sector. Let me tell you what kind of difficulties are there. I don't want to take your more time. In fact, time is over. It is almost 8:15. But the last point is, Maharashtra government in 2004, they've started a scheme that Magasvargiya Audyogik Samstha, Magasvargiya Audyogik Samstha, that is backward classes industrial cooperative societies. Now today there are 209 such societies. Now their total capital was supposed to be 7 crores of rupees. From 2004 till 2020, 16 years, these 209 industrial cooperative backward classes societies have not been given complete fund of 7 crores of rupees. And recently, I think Mr. Harshavardhan Patil, Harshavardhan Kambli may be here. He is handling industry portfolio. Yesterday we have taken the webinar. That is why the scheduled caste and the scheduled Anusuchit Jati, the scheduled caste industrial development societies, they could not get sufficient money. That's why some of money is remaining in their bank book balance. That is unspent money. Because they could not get sufficient working capital, that's why they could not spend 50, 60, 70 lakhs rupees. Some are having 1 crore because of insufficient working fund. You're surprised to know this government of Maharashtra is supposed to be taking the name of Phule, Ambedkar and Shahu. They've issued the circular that whatever money is unspent by these Magasvargiya Audyogik Sahakari Sanstha should be taken back by the government. Is it a justice? Is it equality? Is it morality? Is it ethics? That's why the question is, we have to see that whenever we are entering into the field of, say, education, in the field of skills, creating entrepreneurs, this we cannot live on reservations alone. Please remember, I should not be misunderstood. Reservation is life and death problem. Reservation must continue. Otherwise, we shall have proportional representation. There are 6,000 castes. Give benefits in public sector and private sector in proportion to the population of the caste. That is our demand. If we want to scrap the reservation for scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, and the OBCs, then go on the caste and subcaste basis reservation representation. Every caste and subcaste will get the jobs only in proportion of their population. If a caste, if so, for example, Chitpawan Brahmin, suppose for example 0.5%, then Chitpawan Brahmins will get 0.5% jobs. Say for example, barbers are having 3.5% population. They will be getting 3.5% of the job. We shall get proportional representation. Are we ready? Now, this we ask the question. Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar became most controversial because he raised the most uncomfortable questions. Those who are asking for intra-caste inequality, intra-caste means the upper sections in the scheduled caste are getting more benefits than the lower scheduled caste poor people, they are not getting benefits. This is intra-caste inequality. What about intra-caste inequality? The post of judges, the post of school teachers, the post of professors, the post of IAS officers, the post of revenue officers, post of the police department, post in the revenue department, post in navy, post in defense. You go any field. Why only few castes are monopolizing the privileges of the positions in these different diverse fields of the society? That's why we must fight for reservations till the caste continues, till prejudices continues, still ill-feeling continues, because people have got that mindset and they are not coming. Even for Ambedkar also they considered scheduled caste. Not only scheduled caste, they consider Ambedkar was Mahar. Ambedkar was one of the few greatest intellectuals that human society has produced. Human society, not only Indians. Recently, Columbia University has taken a survey. In the 250 years of history of Columbia University, Dr. Bhimrao Ramji Ambedkar was the most brilliant student. Ambedkar was only PhD and DSc from London School of Economics and Columbia University. That's what the question is, that reservation issue is going to become more complicated, more controversial. We must fight for reservation. We must reject creamy layer. But simultaneously, we also must fight on all levels, academic level, intellectual level, journalistic level, levels of executive, levels of judiciary, levels of bureaucracy, and surrender to cause. Rather than one last point I want to make, scheduled caste community is very much segmented on the basis of the leadership issue. Let me tell you very humbly, we have got only one divine leader. We should surrender that supreme leader. We should surrender that sublime leader. He is our guide. He is our emancipator. He was our Margadatta. He was our Mokshadatta. Following Buddha's philosophy, that sublime leader, that immortal leader, that cherished leader, that leader who will continue to guide for generations, for hundreds and thousands of years, the spirit, the efforts, the sacrifice, the knowledge, the intellectual ability, that leader we should surrender, keeping our internal differences aside, because we are all are products of that great sublime leader, and that is Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar. Thank you very much, and Jai Bhim to all.
Very nice, sir.
Thank you so much, Harshavan. Thank you.
Sir.
Thank you. You have taken more pains. Your team made this platform available. Otherwise, this would have been on Zoom or some Skype or something. But
No, sir,
Rekha,
we have around 10,000. We have more than 10,000 people listening, sir. We have this good platform, sir.
Jai Bhim sir. Jai Bhim sir. Jai Bhim.
Sir, Jai Bhim, Jai Bhim.
Mote sahab Jai Bhim.
Harshavardhan, एक minute. The latest circular I have written to Chief Minister. I have written to Dhananjay Munde and Industry Minister, Mr. Subhash Desai, that the circular which Mr. Praveen Darade, Commissioner Schedule Caste, has sent, that whatever amount has remained unspent on this society, that please look into that, okay?
Yes, sir, I am aware of that, sir. I already spoke with him.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you.
And sir, we should request Nitin Raut, sir. Actually, he was the one who stated that he was very instrumental in staying that GR of Creamier.
Yeah.
Arey Baba, he is a leader. His name is Raut. He is Raut.
Sir, he is a powerful leader, very vocal and good.
I tell you, Chavan Saab, thank you very much. Convey my regard to senior Chavan Saab. When we receive secretary, we were close friends. We also met at my Pandara restaurant. But so far,
Sir, the questions, sir, questions have started coming, sir. Questions have started coming.
Okay. No, about Raut Saab, एक मिनट में बोलना चाहता हूँ. Mr. Nitin Raut is the only person in the Congress party since beginning, even for the Congress functions and organizations, he dares to wear the blue cap.
Yes.
And that's for hats off to Dr. Nitin Raut. Okay.
सर 26 जनवरी को भी नीली कैप पहन के जाते हैं झंडे को सलामी देने के लिए राउत साहब.
Oh, thank you so much. Okay. Now let's go for questions.
Sir, this is a question. Sir, there is a question. Can the scope, Gaurav Dehade has asked, can the scope of reservation be increased in private sector as well with the diminishing scope of jobs in government? मुझे लगता है कि चौहान सर आप थोड़ा सा इसको बताएंगे. Scope of reservation be increased in private sector, please.
Sir, thank you. I think the scope can be increased, but in the system where we are not getting anything in the government job. So where is the question of getting reservation in the private sector? I don't think that the demand of this reservation in private sector will benefit us, because we should demand that the nationalization concept should be revived, and till the nationalized concept is revived and we can't get the benefits. Even in the government sectors, we do cases every day. The people who are working, they are suffering the whole life. A person is appointed as, say, deputy general manager, and that person after joining is given the post of manager, and he continue fighting in whole of his tenure, and he will retire, but still he will not be given that position. And this type of thing is happening even in the government sector. So where is the question of getting this these dignity rights in the private sectors?
And one more addition to this, Gaurav, for any kind of a constitution constitution mentions only in government jobs first and government sector. So if we want to have it in a private sector, then again there will have to be amendment to the constitution. So Dr. Chavan is very right that we are not able to fulfill here. So
not only
yeah, Nitin Raut sir. After that, then Mungekar sir.
देखिए, जब 2004 में रिजर्वेशन एक्ट आया अपने महाराष्ट्र के अंदर, रिजर्वेशन एक्ट के अंदर हमने वो बात मेंशन की है, क्योंकि जहां भी इंडस्ट्री खुलती है या इंडस्ट्री गवर्नमेंट अलाउ करती है, तो उस इंडस्ट्रीज को जो बेनिफिट दिए जाते हैं लैंड्स में, वाटर में, इलेक्ट्रिसिटी में, टैक्सेस में, जो भी दिए जाते हैं, इसलिए गवर्नमेंट कैन डू दैट कि उनको कंपेल करे कि प्राइवेट सेक्टर में रिजर्वेशन दे, और वैसा हमने 2004 के रिजर्वेशन एक्ट में मेंशन किया था। लेकिन चूंकि वो एक्ट वहां जुडिशियरी में फंस गया और वो इम्प्लीमेंट नहीं हो पाया।
यस, राइट। मुनगेकर सर, आप बोल रहे थे कुछ? मुनगेकर सर, मुनगेकर सर, मुनगेकर सर, मुनगेकर सर, आप, you wanted to add something? Sir, you wanted, Mungekar sir, you wanted to add something to this? You wanted to add something to this, Mungekar sir?
Yes, yes, I want. As you rightly mentioned, see the basically in the constitution, it is in my hand right now. This is the constitution. Okay. Now, constitution never uses the word job shall be reserved. There is no word reservation. As India is a federation of the states, there is no word federation in the constitution. Now, secular word was not there till 1975, 1976. Indira ji brought that. Now, the question is, as you rightly mentioned, Dr. Harshavardhan, the constitution concern article clearly says the claims of the scheduled caste and scheduled tribes will be taken into account in the public employment. In the public employment. Now, public employment means right from Gram Panchayat till the cabinet ministry. It is everything which is financed by the government, which is financed by the state, that is public. Okay,
Yes.
that's why Gram Panchayat also is public. That's why there is reservation also. Tomorrow, suppose 3 peons are there in the Gram Panchayat. Gram Panchayats are very small. Then 1 peon will have to be appointed from the scheduled caste. That's why the question is, constitution needs to be amended. But the constitution I mentioned, constitution is getting destroyed.
Yes.
Constitution is basically getting destroyed. That's why there is no question of reservation in the private sector at all. Let me tell you.
Right.
Sir,
Sir, there
I
are
will take.
other questions. Sir, other questions are also coming up, sir. Lot of questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Sir,
okay.
next question is whether the courts can intermediate into the class 1 officer job. Yes, answer is yes. Article 226 and Article 32. Article 226, High Court can intervene because there is an issue of constitution, fundamental rights. Article 32, Supreme Court can intervene. Next question is Siddharth Kamble. If reservations are within the purview of fundamental right, under what article of the Constitution the judgments are finding support for reservation policy distortion? Fundamental rights are reservations are not within the purview of fundamental rights. They are
reservations are fundamental rights.
No, as per the court's orders, as per the court
No, as
orders
per
and
court
judgments.
order, because in Mandal Commission judgment, this Indra Sani, Supreme
Yes.
Court, 6 judges have said that this is a classification of Article
Yes.
16.1. And if it is a classification of Article 14 and 16.1, then this is fundamental right. Even Baba Sahab had said that this is the exception. So basically this is exception, and exception can always override the main provision. Number one.
Yes.
Number two, Indra Sani, the Supreme Court has taken a view that this is fundamental right. But the 3 judges, which was dissenting
Yes.
judgment, they have said that this is enabling provision
Enabling.
and discretionary remedy. And after
Yes.
that UP case, I raised this in another UP case, Suresh Chand Gautam, that this Nagaraj judgment is constitutionally incorrect because the dissenting judgment of this Indra Sani has been applied. So Justice Deepak Misra agreed with me, but he said 9 years have gone by, so we are not going to review it. So after 1 year, then Madhya Pradesh, Bihar cases came. Then again we argued before Justice Kurian Joseph. Then Kurian Joseph referred it to Constitution bench. The issue was that social backwardness criteria will not apply to scheduled caste, and that was a interpretation in relation to the backward class identification. So if it is not a tool of identification, then how you apply that creamy layer to scheduled caste, scheduled tribe? That's why the whole thing which they are applying the dissenting judgment of Indra Sani case, and not changing the view in spite it was referred to larger bench. The court has just decided without deciding the basic principle. Thank you.
Yes, but as of now, the government stand is it is an enabling provision. Am I right, Dr. Chavan?
That government stand is incorrect, because government
it is incorrect. It may be incorrect, but as of now, the government stand is that it is an enabling provision.
No, even if it is enabling provision, there is a concept of power coupled with duty. Justice Pandian, who was part of majority, he has used enabling provision word, but he has said this will be a mandatory. But the dissenting judges have said this will be a discretion. That is the difference. If it is mandatory, then it will apply. Thank you.
Yes, but what is the legal position now?
No, legal position,
because Mandal is 9 judges bench, so Mandal has to apply, because these are 2 judges, 5 judges. These are not constitutional interpretation. Till the Mandal judgment is reviewed and said that this is not a fundamental right, it will remain as fundamental right, and that situation cannot change by a smaller bench.
Dr. Harshavardhan, only one. I think you have given the answer to that yourself.
Yes.
Two things are there. One, if reservation would not have been fundamental right, then the provision of the reservation would not have been made in part 3 of the Constitution, which deals with fundamental rights. Constitution clearly, otherwise they would have included in the directive principles of the state policy. That's why you call whatever name, whether it is enabling provision or it is fundamental right, we consider it is on par with fundamental right. It has got spirit of fundamental right. And second point we had mentioned in the beginning, and as just Dr. Chavan just now mentioned, government is taking a light view, casual view, pro-establishment view, and considering it is enabling provision, okay, so that general public should be under impression that reservation is not the fundamental right of the scheduled caste and scheduled tribes. And the third thing is, as you earlier initially mentioned, Nagaraj bench case, okay, has no business to comment about on the judgment on the Indra Sani case. I had taken nearly 20 meetings, and then I went to the Agriculture Prices Commission. That it is fundamental law, it is fundamental jurisprudence procedure in the constitutional matters itself, that if a judgment is to be reviewed, then the earlier bench must be succeeded by the much larger bench. That's why earlier was 7 judges.
That is right, sir. That is what I said.
That is Article 141.
Right. So now next question, sir. Next question.
सर ये आप जो कह रहे थे वो सही है, लेकिन जब तक के गवर्नमेंट की मॉरलिटी उस पर नहीं आती तब तक के उसका कोई अर्थ नहीं है. चूंकि कांग्रेस गवर्नमेंट मॉरलिटी इसलिए रखती थी कि रिजर्वेशन का जो फैक्टर है वो पूना पैक्ट से रिलेटेड है, और पूना पैक्ट में डॉक्टर बाबा साहब आम्बेडकर जी ने महात्मा गांधी के साथ पैक्ट करते वक्त वो चीजें रिजर्वेशन को उसमें लाया और उसको बाद में कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में लाया, और वो लाने की वजह से मॉरलिटी ये कांग्रेस के साथ आती है, लेकिन बाकी गवर्नमेंट जो भी आती है वो उसको अपनी मॉरलिटी नहीं मानती है.
Sir, next question. My question, Pramod Sarkar, my question for fraudulent certificate to Kamble sir. Pramod ji, आपका question clear नहीं है fraudulent certificate के बारे में. So you can rewrite your question. Next question, please. सिद्धार्थ कामले, इनका डॉक्टर नितिन राउत सर के लिए सवाल है. प्लीज थ्रो लाइट ऑन वेदर द रिजर्वेशन एक्ट इज इन एग्जिस्टेंस और हैज बीन स्क्रैप्ड.
It is not been scrapped. It is in the court right now. Court has stayed that act.
Okay. Next question. Kushal Wagmare, how to destroy the discrimination What are the steps to be implemented for removal of social discrimination? Mungegar sir, आपका सवाल है.
Social discrimination, unfortunately, is built in your mindset, your mindset. Now, discrimination in the sense that it is not inequality, it is discrimination in the sense that you don't belong to us, and that's why we shall not give you the same treatment. Now, unless an economic solution is not the only solution, society will have to go tremendous amount of reformation, renaissance, mental revolution, because discrimination is counter revolution in terms of Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar. That's why there is no easy answer. Because suppose, for example, I ask people, what is your caste? They say my caste is XYZ. What do you mean? They can't reply, because caste is unscientific. Babasaheb Ambedkar in Annihilation of Caste said that caste is unscientific, and which is unscientific, you cannot defend by scientific way, because the thing itself is unscientific. That's why discrimination is your mental order. For example, you can give hundreds of examples. You don't belong to us, and that's why you will not get the same treatment. Now this is mental setup. Now there are many brilliant scheduled tribe, OBCs. Even there are many brilliant rural people, but urban people discriminate against rural people. It is not only discrimination. We are discussing caste based, but even urban people, okay, they are not considering rural people. You were collector. You must have seen that urban people's behavior is not accepting the rural people on par with them, because English people speak incorrect English. Their language is different. Their dress is different. They are not polished likewise. That's why now that is crime. That's why discrimination is a crime. That crime has arisen because of the criminal mental order. Till Hindu society does not cure itself from this mental criminal disorder, discrimination will continue. That's why the fight against discrimination, Buddha fought, okay, Phule fought, Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar fought against discrimination. But then it will require tremendous mental revolution for the our Indian society. It is a very long drawn process and long drawn journey. There is no easy answer.
Yes, and we will also require some of them from upper caste to support this for annihilation of caste. So there is another question. Yeah, another question from Raj Ambale. My question to Dr. Kamli: your opinion on the backdoor entry appointment of secretaries of Niti Aayog from private entities and not IAS officer, and government policy decision to private entities. Raj, this is actually government has the powers to appoint any kind of a technical persons if required, and you can't do away with the right of that government. Only thing that your question possibly is asking that why don't they enter through this UPSC route? But government in their own wisdom has taken this decision, and it is very difficult to challenge this actually. Next question, please. Sir, there are problems in getting ST, caste and validity certificate, and it is illegally charged 6 to 8 lakh by agents. Please, sir, throw lights on this issue. Every division we have a validity committee for tribals, and then there were a lot of certificates which were issued to those non-tribals who were ST certificates were issued to non-tribals also. Therefore, government has come out with this strict kind of a GR, wherein you have to give documents before 1950 that you were tribals, and this has been done for the benefit of the original tribals. So please remember that government's intention in this is very clear. Next. So I think we can take two more questions in the Act of Reservation. So this is for Nitin Raut sir. All the act has reservation for SC/ST. Then why administration and ministries wait for people to ask to court? Always they should implement without asking, sir.
It's a matter of the court now, so we cannot say that. government will take an action. Government have already gone in the court that legislative assembly, legislature has made this law and we are with the law.
Yes. Dr. Chavan, would you like to add something to this?
I think the government should initiate some action, because in courts the government is not proactively acting so that all these cases should be sorted out. Even if the case is there in the court, once the case notice is issued, then for years the case is pending relating to reservation and of SC/ST OBC category cases. So it may be services, may be other issues also. So the government should frame a policy and direct its officers by reviewing the cases so that those cases should be decided by the court early.
Yeah, I think it is 3 hours and 21 minutes. We will take 2 more questions, so 3 hours and 25 minutes then. And then we end up, Suresh Chavre question, what should be done to fight this issue on United Front? Nitin Raut sir, again for you, United Front. What should be done to fight this issue on United Front?
We have already taken up this issue in our Vikas Agadi cabinet, and the cabinet high power committee is looking after it.
Yes.
As minister is speaking selectively, Baba, very, very careful.
Last question. It is 3 hours and 22 minutes. We can take one more question. Borkar Viti, when can we have last question? One more question. What was that question, please, team?
Yes, sir.
Whether services of judges are not within the purview of reservation. I think there is no provision in constitution that prohibits reservation in judiciary. Chavan sir?
I think the provision relating to 16.4, 16.4a, that should be made applicable, and this is part of fundamental right. The judiciary is misconstruing it by not applying reservation to the superior judicial services, because up to district judge you have reservations. So why not at High Court and Supreme Court? Unless you have reservation or the adequate representation at that level, which is the mandate of the Constitution, the problem will not be sorted out.
Okay. I think now we will take, it is already 3:23. So last question, Mahendra again. In case of post-graduation admission in technical education, I witnessed case of seat of ST directly transferred to open category due to unavailability of candidates. So is it right? Chavan sir?
No, it cannot be transferred, because there is no provision to transfer a reserve seat to the unreserved candidate. If such transfer is there, that is illegal.
Sir, there is the last question of Mr. Borkar. So he says, can our SC/ST politicians, officials, political worker, or SC/ST unions, association, federation, MPs, minister, MLA push this as our SC/ST development agenda through all parties? So again, the last question goes to you.
It depends upon person and party to party.
Yes.
Okay, so I think now team, GBC team, Mr. Vijay Jadhav, please take over. We are now almost finishing. So it has been a very nice interaction actually, and nice, yeah, it was really good. Yeah, Vijay Jadhav, please.
Thank you.
Vijay, we are not able to hear you. We are not able to hear you.
Am I audible?
Yes, now yes.
Yeah. Jai Hind, Namo Buddhaya. This is Vijay from GBC India, Mumbai. It is the great honor and privilege to give a vote of thanks to all the present dignitaries on this memorable occasion. I would like to thank you, all the honorable guests, starting from firstly, Honorable Dr. Nitin Raut sir, Minister of the Power of Government of Maharashtra, Guardian Minister of the Nagpur District for the Formal Education of the International Webinar on 30th May 2020, that is the celebration of the first centenary of All India Bahishkrit Parishad in the Nagpur dated 30th May 1920 and celebrating 100 years of it. I thank you, Dr. K. Chavan sir, senior lawyer, Supreme Court of India, giving the points of constitutional provision of reservation and economical, judicial, and the social discriminations. He focused on the different commissions, starting from the topic like Mandal Commission to the reservation in the promotion of creamy layer area. Creamy layer. I thank you, Honorable Dr. Harshadip Kamble sir, IAS Industry Commissioner of Maharashtra State, for delivering an informative speech on the basic concept of creamy layer. Also, we would like to all pay our gratitude to you for taking an initiative to start GBC India, that is a Buddhist congregation, India's all online event and talk shows. After the two talks has been done, so was imparting importance of the digitalization worldwide during the this lockdown period. He has been a youth icon to the young minds of our society and motivate them in his speeches, thus being their father who gave up himself on his fatherhood. I thank you, Dr. Bhalchandra Mangekar sir, Executive Member, Planning Commission of India, and former VC of Mumbai University, of topic of the reservation, distortions and reality. So, Mangekar sir, it feels privileged to be one of his students, Vijay Jadhav. Thanks a lot. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you all of you. Jai Bhim.
Yeah, Jai Bhim sir. Thank you sir.
Harshadip.
हाँ एक मिनट
Harshadip.
एक मिनट सर एक मिनट सर 1 minute
हाँ